Hello and welcome to another episode of DIY EV Chat, the podcast about making your own electric car. And today my guest is Anthony Bezencon. Took me a while to work out that one, but yes, Bezencon. There we go. Hello, welcome Anthony.
Hi Tom, thanks for having me.
I think you've got the equivalent of cheese right in terms of unusual names there, but certainly stands out and people remember you.
It does.
So now we'll talk about your project in a bit, but you've built an EV, you've converted a car. We've gone down a slightly similar route in terms of hardware choices. But before we get into all that, what sort of skills did you bring to EV conversion land? I can see a 19-inch rack in the background, so there's some technological background there.
Yeah, so my day job, I'm around technology a lot. I work in live events. I do video for sort of big ceremonies and concerts and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So there's quite a lot of technology around us. But I never get involved in the kind of board level stuff or anything that's really used in that. Formal training. I left school, kind of went straight into work, and then a couple of years later did a course in electrical installations. So a bit of electrical knowledge there as well.
You've been around high voltages before.
Been around high voltages, not ones that you can't switch off very easily.
Unlike batteries.
Yeah.
And what about other projects? Do you have a sort of history of making stuff?
Yeah, this is by far the biggest project I've undertaken. But yeah, lots of little tinkering projects. You know, things around the house, little helper projects, little things for the kids, that kind of thing.
But nothing quite this serious.
Nothing quite this serious, no.
And what sort of, how did you stumble across the idea of doing an EV conversion?
I've been interested in EVs for quite a long time. I remember my boss at the time, he'd just got delivery of a new Nissan Leaf in 2011 or 2012, whenever it was. So, you know, really very early days.
Yeah.
In that, and took a little drive in it and was like, this is amazing. This is the future. This is where we need to be. And so I've been really interested since then. And then obviously, you know, EVs have become more and more popular. We ended up buying a Leaf, the 40 kilowatt Leaf as our daily driver, and more I was like, oh, I really want to get rid of this smelly old 1940s A series that's that's dropping oil all over the drive, and yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a clue to what you chose to convert. So what is it you worked on?
So it's classic Mini, 1980 vintage, and it's one we've had for many years. We bought it from a student at college. He sold it to us for £20 because it was, as far as they were concerned, it was a complete non-runner. It was broken, and we swapped the HT leads around on it, started it up, and drove off. So
that's
yeah.
a bargain. And when did you get it? When did you buy it?
This was in 96 or 97,
Okay.
or something like that. So quite, back when the cars were kind of disposable like that. But we kept it, and it's kind of ironic because when I first brought it round to a friend's house, I noticed the number plate, which was 93V, and she goes, "Oh, should run on 93 volts." And I was like, "Oh well, there we go." Now it runs on 300 and something.
I was going to say you're running slightly higher than that now. So when did you make that when did you make the leap? When did you make the decision saying, right, we're gonna put an electric motor in it?
I think it must have been about February last year.
Okay.
As you do after a few weeks, probably months of Googling around the subject, and I'd seen a lot of other people. Well, there wasn't a lot. There was very few mini conversions have been done at the time. Very few, and there were some very high end ones. And there was a few forklift motor AC50 type conversions, and there was one guy who'd done a really nice job and actually there was two guys who'd done a really nice job, and they'd used the leaf stack in there, but it really didn't fit very well from the pictures I could see, and it required new subframes, body modifications. The battery was on the back seat in one of them, and I just thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I want to keep the car.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose the seats. I don't want to change the subframe. Ideally, we could swap it back to a petrol engine in a weekend. So yeah, more googling and more googling, and eventually found that the Outlanders were a pretty good size and could potentially be controlled just with CAN. And then, yeah, as most things end up, I was on eBay one night, and there's a there's a motor, and why not?
I'm trying to picture the leaf stack in my head versus the size of a classic Mini, and thinking, I mean,
Yeah,
that just looks painful.
most of the pictures I've seen, it doesn't fit great.
So you spotted the Outlander. You went straight down the Outlander rear motor route. Is that
Yeah,
right?
rear motor. So I managed to pick up an entire Outlander rear axle assembly, motor, drive shafts, the whole subframe,
Mm.
everything for something ridiculous like £300, which was incredible. And all excited, went off and picked that up, and yeah, and it all started to happen very quickly after that. Once you'd kind of once you committed, it all went quite quickly.
So you got the Outlander rear axle. So you've got the sort
Hmm.
of notionally 60-ish kilowatt motor in there, but much better torque profile than
Hmm.
front motors, and drive shafts. So what did you do with regards to drive shafts? Did you get some made up?
So,
How did
so
you sort
that's
of
the
bottom up?
only bit. Interestingly, that's the only bit that required anything that are called specialist tooling. That everything else I've done is just a welder and a hammer and a vise, pretty much. It's very
Man after my own heart.
exactly, very much nothing you shouldn't have in your own kind of workshop. So that was the only thing. Fortunately, a friend of mine. He had a lovely lathe, a really nice, big, powerful lathe, and was more than happy for us to borrow it. And my brother-in-law was quite experienced at driving that sort of thing. So yeah, we very simply did a cut and shut with the mini drive shafts. It was pretty much the last thing we did because I wanted to get everything in centered, and I was really keen to keep the drive shafts the same length
Yeah.
to try and reduce the torque steer because I knew we'd have a lot of torque at play potentially. So I was very keen to keep them the same lengths, which they are, fortunately. But yeah, we cut and shut the mini drive shafts with the Outlander ones. And we basically socketed the mini one and then spigoted the Outlander one, joined the two together, bit of weld, and then yeah, we were done.
Very good. So before that, it was about mounting it all up in there. Did you? What did you do with regards to the subframe? Did you effectively make up a new one that bolts in, or?
No, so again, super easy. It was kind of weird just how well all of the components fitted in the Mini. It was like if I put it here, there's a tiny bit of metal to remove from the back of the subframe just so the diff can sit, really center to the hubs,
Yeah.
and then it all just fits. So I thought, and I kind of started this project expecting it to go wrong, expecting to become really unstuck somewhere. I didn't have high expectations of succeeding. I fully expected to get to a point and just go, all right, okay, this is going to cost thousands, and we'll just give up. But it all kind of came together, and for mounting into the subframe, we kept the subframe completely standard.
Wow.
Drilled a few extra holes, a bit of strengthening, and used some like really large industrial bobbin rubber mounts.
Yeah.
Fabricated some adapter plates again, just out of sort of free meal steel, bit of welding and hammering, and that was it. It was easy as that, and it just kind of slotted in, and it doesn't move. Yeah, it's really great.
And with regards to the electronics, you're using the matching Outlander rear inverter, are you?
Exactly, yes. It's all driven. One of the things, having seen that there was a potential to control it with CAN, it was like, okay, let's try and keep as much OEM gear in there as possible because let's face it, they've poured millions
Yeah.
into research in this and are going to do a way better job than I can ever imagine. Um, and equally with the charger, that was already pretty well known.
Yeah.
There was a reasonable amount of information out there, so I was pretty comfortable with that. So yeah, we took the rear inverter and the charger along with the motor.
And that was another eBay special, was it?
Well, actually, it was the guy who I got the rear axle set up off of. He was one of these kind of driveway breakers. He had 4 or 5 Outlanders on his driveway in
Might
not
be the
too
same
far
guy
from
who
West
sold me
London.
my rear motor, actually.
It's quite possible. He was in Uxbridge, I think, West
Yeah.
London. Yeah, lovely guy. Very, very reasonable prices.
Yeah. Yeah, if anybody needs Outlander parts, we have a good contact.
Got a good contact. Yes, yes.
So what was the process of getting it up and running? Did you get it up and running on the bench first? Did you sort of have a bit of a
I
play around with
didn't. No,
canvas and
I
stuff?
was like I say, we're starting off with my negative attitude. It was like, well, let's just put it in and see what happens. So we mounted all the motor, and I didn't really have I didn't have a battery pack at this point, and I didn't really want to build up a rectifier
Mm.
or go and purchase a smaller battery pack or something like that. I was like, if I'm going to buy a battery pack, let's just do that. So yeah, so I concentrated on the mechanical side of it, mounting it and all of that, and getting the inverter in and understanding all the wiring, and then later on tested it with the battery pack.
And what are you using to provide the CAN bus signals to drive the inverter?
So it's all a board that I designed myself.
Wow.
That was that was one of the really interesting parts of this project for me. I'd never everything I'd done had been on strip board. I played around quite a bit with Arduinos and things like that before, so a limited understanding of the kind of hardware involved. Um, but I went down an interesting route in some ways because of component shortages and things like that. Rather than uh, going sort of full SMD, I ended up using modules. So from
Okay.
from Amazon or eBay or wherever, AliExpress, you can pick up these little CAN bus pre-made PCB transceivers. They just plug in on a header, so everything on the board just literally plugs in. There's a few resistors through hole to solder, and that's it. So it's very, very simple to build up. If you blow something up, you just replace it. But I also came across Teensy. I'd heard of it. I'd never really used it, and realised that this is a massively powerful
Yeah.
platform. It's got the CAN bus built in. It's got serial ports for days and all the bits and pieces you could want. And I started to dig into it more, and realised as well it also had really, really solid, easy to use CAN bus libraries.
Yeah.
So it made the programming side of it actually quite straightforward.
Have you found them fragile at all?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got a disappointingly large pile of ones that no longer work.
Because we've had the same issue because obviously it's used in Simp BMS and we've been I
Exactly.
say we
Yeah.
Jamie and Robert, who I do a lot of sort of have a lot of conversations with around this sort of stuff. They've been working on sort of variants on Simp BMS
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
looking at switching to ESPs because the Teensy is relatively expensive versus an
Yeah.
ESP32 and has proven to be somewhat fragile.
It is. I mean, mine's effectively electronically wrapped in cotton wool now. I would say it's opto isolated on every input it can possibly be, and all of that. And you've just got to be very careful with them. And most of the time, it's been whilst prototyping, and
Yeah.
a loose wire's touched something, or you've done something stupid like try to power a relay directly from digital IO.
Little bit too much current there.
It doesn't take a lot.
No. So that's cool. And can people use that board? I noticed you've got an easy
Yep.
EDA account.
Yeah, easy EDA. All the designs are on there. The code is up on GitHub, and there's a thread on the forum as well. And there's a couple of people playing with it. Seem to be getting reasonably far along now.
I'm
which
just
is
looking
good.
at the spare Outlander rear inverter I have over in the corner, thinking, and so what are the limitations of that? Because one of the reasons I've stuck. Well, I'm planning to stick with my Prius Gen 3 inverter at the moment. Is I can basically massively overclock that motor, whereas I'm
Yeah.
guessing with the stock inverter you're limited to its stock output. Albeit it used to propel a dirty, great,
Yeah,
SUV.
I mean,
So
I've got the opposite problem. I mean, the Mini is 700 kilos, and the first time we took it out on the road, I had the throttle directly mapped. 0 to 100, it's 100 being 200 newton meters of torque. and it just sit there spinning the wheels with smoke coming out of them. It was completely undrivable. So yeah, so we toned that down a bit and realised, okay, there's more than enough power here, and I only ever really, this was never going to be a racer. It
No.
was just going to be a good practical family car, and I ended up developing the code in quite a bit. So now we've got 3 different modes to run the motor in, a kind of eco, um, normal, and sport mode, if you like. So we can have different throttle profiles depending on how you're feeling that day. And yeah, the eco is very gentle, drives probably similar to a classic kind of a mini of the day,
Yeah.
but with
Just a
a
bit
little
quieter.
better, a lot quieter, and a lot more refined. And then you jump into sport mode, and you can have as much fun as you want, really.
Fantastic. I'm definitely going to go and get me one of these boards. I'm now just starting to reconsider all my plans for refitting the 300. And what did you do on the battery front then?
So the battery front, again, sticking with the Outlander stuff, I thought, well, let's just get the Outlander pack again. With my negativity of how the whole project was going to go, it's like I don't want to commit to a massively expensive pack. The
Yeah.
Outlander packs are cheap. I kind of knew it would limit me in range. The energy density of them's quite poor,
Mm.
but they're very, very easy to work with. The cells are a really good size. They're super stable. They pack well. And they're cheap. And they work with Simp BMS. They work really
Right.
well
Yeah.
with Simp. So and then as it turns out, if you buy a whole pack, you get a whole load of goodies in there that are incredibly useful.
So contactors and
yeah, contactors, pre-charge resistors. There's a fan in there. There's if you get the right one, there's even a heater element you can reuse.
is there
And
really?
yeah, there's a little PTC heater was an option in some of them.
Huh.
And then yeah, like all the cabling you'd ever need, all that stuff.
Now, the question a lot of people I'm imagining are thinking is, where the bloody hell does the battery pack go on a classic Mini?
So right, yeah, so that was one of the challenges is how do you fit it all in? So we've got 6 modules in the boot,
Okay.
and we actually managed to keep some of the original Outlander battery box and kind of section it into the boot. It fitted
Wow.
again. It just sort of fitted. It fitted really quite well.
What's the structure of an Outlander pack? It's ATS, 96S.
It's ATS, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we managed to. It was pretty easy to split up again because the modules are packed 8 cells to a module.
Okay.
So they're relatively easy to split up, and they're all seriesed up internally with a single CMU. So we put 6 in the boot, 2 under the back seats. Again, they fitted just right, and then two under the bonnet.
Wow.
And again that worked out really well, and the car's actually so much better for it because the weight distribution has ended up really close to 50-50 now.
I'm just thinking that it must be really even.
It's really by no design or anything like that. by pure accident, we've ended up pretty close to a really balanced weight distribution.
So how many kilowatt hours is that in theory?
So it's for 13.8.
Okay.
Which is a little low, especially for its size and everything. But it's more than enough for what we
Yeah, and what sort of range is that giving you?
In theory, about 60 miles,
Okay.
which is pretty healthy.
That's very usable.
It's more than usable. I mean, obviously, if you put it in sport mode and
Start drifting it.
yeah, then you're not getting that. But typically, we're seeing about 5.5 miles per kilowatt hour, something like that.
That's really good. I guess that's
So
down to the
really,
weight.
It's down to the weight, yeah. Which again, super interesting. I took my brother-in-law's got a classic Mini as well, and I got a set of scales here, and we weighed that, and we weighed the completed mine, and it's exactly the same weight. Within 5 kilograms, it's exactly the same weight. So
That's incredible.
absolutely incredible, yeah.
So the whole setup only weighs the same as fuel
This,
tank engine
yeah,
gearbox.
fuel tank engine gearbox. Yeah.
That's a spectacular transformation. Wow. I'm
Yeah.
impressed. And so charger, you use the Outlander charger,
Outlander charger again. I mean, brilliant, brilliant unit. It's super easy to work with. You get your DC with it, and again, it fits in the Mini. It fits underneath the passenger seat just perfectly.
and
So
what are you doing for cooling then? Are you sort of routing cooling lines into the cabin,
yeah. So I took the original gear stick out,
right?
and 3D printed a little grommet to pass some cooling lines through, and then for a bit of nostalgia, it just kept the original Mini side mounted rad in there.
Nice.
So a little bit
No,
overkill for the cooling, but
no need for fast charging or anything.
that's the next stage. One of the next
Okay.
projects. I'd love to get a CHAdeMO in there. I just want to plug a cable in that's bigger than the tires, you know.
But that's down the line. What about the other ancillaries? Because does the Mini have power steering? Does it?
No, I mean again, so super easy car to convert. No power
Yeah.
steering, no brake servo in that model.
Oh
So
wow. Okay.
yeah, so no need for vacuums or anything like that. So it's really just connecting to brake lights, reverse lights, that kind of thing.
Wow.
Um, the
And
the
with
heater's just electric, so we kept the I had one of the original or the later type heaters is a plastic casing, so I
right.
was quite happy to put just a PTC core in there, and it was literally as easy as swapping out the wet core for a PTC one.
Is that running
Um,
high voltage or low
it's
voltage?
running high voltage, yeah,
Okay.
and we used the CHAdeMO contactor from the Outlander battery pack is the heater contactor, and it's just powered on with the fan, so it can't come on by itself. It needs the fan. Um, and
Fantastic.
it's better than it was before because it actually
Yeah. No great surprise there.
it actually gets warm.
So when did you get it all on the road then?
So well, we started in February, and there was a local mini show in town in September, and it was the kids were kind of like, "Oh, go on, finish it, finish it. We want to take it to the mini show," and it was kind of like, "Yeah, it's never going to happen," and it kind of did. So yeah, we finished it in early September.
Wow.
Well, when I say finished, I mean it's never really finished.
No. No.
We drove it in early September. So.
And any issues with MOT and things like that?
Again, I mean, because it's a historic vehicle, it's MOT exempt and remains MOT exempt. So that was super easy because it was a non-issue.
Yeah.
Um, Same with tax. Registration and insurance was something that was really worrying me. But again, from some kind of luck or whatever, it was no problem at all. It was send off the documents to the DVLA, and 4 weeks later, it was registered as an electric vehicle.
Amazing.
Yeah, super rare. I don't know
And,
how that happened.
and insurance wise?
Insurance was again just bizarre. We've had a classic policy with the same company for many years, and my wife phoned them up to say, "Hey, look, we've done this electric conversion. Will you be able to insure it? Will it cost any extra?" And on the phone they went, "No, that's fine, no problem. I'll just send you out some new documents." We kind of left just hanging there, going, "Did they understand?" And yeah, the documents all came back electric, no problem at all. It was,
I don't know
yeah.
what you did in a past life, but I want some of
I've used up all my credits, clearly.
What was the reception like at the mini show?
It was super interesting, actually. It was obviously the only electric one there.
Yeah.
There were lots of, people had put in Honda engines. There was lots of engine conversions there, but yeah, this was the only electric conversion there, and there were a lot of people who were very interested in it. Particularly as I didn't spend any time really doing the body work. It was I did all the kind of the rust removal and all of
Yeah.
that kind of normal things you have to do on a Mini. I did that a few years earlier, so it's a solid base, but the paintwork's a bit faded, and and bits of it haven't stuck properly, so it looks tatty.
Yeah.
It's solid but tatty. So, a lot of people sort of passed it by and then kind of walked backwards when they saw what was under the bonnet.
I had the best comment from my we had the window cleaners around this morning and the car was charging. I had the bonnet open and he climbs up his ladder, looks at it and climbs back down again and just starts staring at it. He's like, "Is that electric?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah." He said, "What are you, some sort of Stephen Hawking? Do you work for NASA?" It's like, no, it's amazing what you can learn from YouTube.
It really is. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are like, "Wow, you're some kind of genius," and we're like, "No, I'm not. I'm just,
Open Inverter Forum, YouTube,
yeah,
incredible combination.
yeah, yeah."
So what's next for it then?
So I'd love to get some fast charging in there. I think that's a super interesting project. Slightly longer term, I want to look at using it as some kind of solar storage. So
okay,
we've got some solar panels. My kind of I haven't really fully figured it out, but it'll probably be an external charger that's modulated based on availability of solar power to
yeah.
charge the batteries, and then for reverse at night. I think that could be an interesting project.
Used to have a chat with Jamie, former guest on here, who's looking at something similar.
Yeah, I've seen a few people with similar ideas. So yeah, hopefully there'll be a good source of information out there soon.
So it sounds like it was a very smooth project. What were the biggest challenges as you went through it?
Well, again, I mean, because I wasn't particularly expecting to get very far very quickly with it, I took things one step at a time, and I didn't really hit many challenges. It was quite surprising in a way. Everything went pretty smoothly, other than blowing up Teensies, but
Yeah.
you just accept that as a cost. That's
yeah. Consumables.
Consumable, totally, yeah. But heat shrink and Teensies are just in the same category.
And most rewarding aspect?
Oh, it's when you first spin the motor for sure. I mean that really. I mean I think that ranked above the first drive.
Really?
When you get all of that, and when I first span it, it was all, it was on strip board and jumper wires everywhere, and it was real like, well, let's see what happens, and it makes that little whining noise and then spins, and you're like, yes, I've done it.
It is a great moment.
And it is, and once you've got that moment, that's it. You'll be able to get through the rest of it. Once you've got that motor spinning, you're done. I think the rest of it is just tuning, really.
And last question: what's your favourite tool?
I would say it's my soldering iron. It's not what I use it a lot, but I like using it.
There's something very sort of zen about soldering when it's going well.
Yeah, yeah, there is.
Getting to that sort of flow state of breathing, even if you are breathing fumes in.
I think that's what makes it so fun.
Don't do it, kids. Stay away from the fumes. Listen, thank you so much for coming on, Anthony. That's been brilliant, and I really want to look forward. I really want to see this car at some point. We'll have to find some way to get a bunch of the UK
to join up.
Yeah, the UK DIY EVs together when we've all got the range to do it. That's the challenge.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you're saying, the next things I'd love to get a bigger battery pack in there and get a bit more range. That'd be the thing.
Same, similar goals. Well, listen, thank you for coming on. Thank you for listening / watching. If you do like this stuff, please do like and subscribe. You can subscribe on YouTube. There's also an audio version of this podcast that goes out on Spotify and iTunes and Google Podcasts and all of the other places. So yes, please leave us some feedback. Comments are very much welcomed. And that's it. Thanks for watching / listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.